Welcome to the AgEmerge Podcast, brought to you by Ag Solutions Network. Your farming challenges are unique, so your practices should be too. We're here to share emerging ideas, build connections, and provoke conversation.
Get ready to improve your soil, your crops, your livestock, and your family's livelihood. I'm your producer, Kim Chase.
And I'm your host, Monty Bottens. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for joining us. Today, we welcome Russ Green, the founder and managing director of a network of future agricultural leaders called McCaben. Russ has made it his mission to help identify and mentor these leaders. In today's podcast, he and Monty cover a wide range of topics, including agricultural equipment, automated intelligence, and discovering the next generation of agricultural leaders from roles within major corporations to the innovators actively engaged in farming. It's a great conversation, so let's jump right in.
Well, welcome everyone to this episode of the AgEmerge Podcast. I'm blessed to be joined by Russ Green. Russ, welcome. Thank you for being here today.
It's great. I wouldn't know where else I'd want to be.
Well, I know Russ from a long time ago in my previous career in the farm equipment business. And it's just great to see what Russ has done through farm equipment and leadership and everything he's been up to. But I don't want to spoil the story, and you can tell your own story the best, Russ. But you do have to start clear back. I'm asking you to start all the way back at the axial flow. But anyway, if you would tell us your story, Russ, and how you've gotten to what you're up to today.
Well, it's my story, so I can tell that there's nobody here to refute me. But if you go back to the axial flow in 1977, Monty, I was part of a young team that was hosted by some really, really strong thinkers like Camille Beard and the team out of Moline, where the product was built. We drank champagne in Champaign, Illinois, when we toasted the first axial flow or rotary combine to the Red Company. History will tell you we weren't first. We were second by a while because one of the engineers jumped over to New Holland, and New Holland a year earlier pumped out their twin rotor combine. But the history, there's probably about four products that really have helped put CNH on the map. At that time, of course, it was International Harvester. But it put International Harvester on map and kept them there. And certainly the quad track would be one. The Magnum tractor would be two. The quad track tractor would be three. And then I think what they've done to broaden their line out with spraying equipment, some of the things they've done, would be four. But the strongest advantage of the red side of the CNH CNH organization is the dealers. But you can do a chicken and egg argument of what comes first. Good dealers are good products. Good products make good dealers, and depending on which side of the street you're on, you'd make that debate. But I have a big place in my heart for that company. But I can also say that about three other companies that I help work in North America as well.
Well, go ahead. Tell us about those. Your time.
Yeah, the line wasn't straight.
The line wasn't AGCO and all that fun stuff.
Yeah. The line wasn't a straight line for the Green family. I started out as a teacher and a coach. Central Iowa, I was gonna teach and coach. I was a business teacher, and they gave me a coaching job as the assistant girls and boys tennis coach. Well, I'll translate that, and as the assistant tennis coach in a Iowa community, you drove the second bus. And you're more of a chaperone than a coach, but it was a great experience because it teaches you how to motivate young people in a classroom environment. If you can keep 20, 25 sophomores, juniors active for 45 minutes without, throwing the desk at each other, that's a pretty good learning experience. But I got a chance to become a trainee in 1975 with the International Harvester Company. I was actually lured into it by my best buddy's dad, was a company store manager in Southeast Iowa. And Mike and I were working out at the Y one day, and we said, hey, let's, what are we going to have to run? Well, we'll just get a soda. We'll go out to Dad's. You can get them for a dime. And at this time, Mike was a linebacker for the Detroit Lions. So it wasn't like a dime meant all that much to him. It kind of meant something to me. And while I was there, Monty, we met the field travelers for International Harvester. They said, "What are you doing? Why are you doing it? Would you like to get into ag?" And I said, "Well, I know my father-in-law was a Purina dealer and very successful at it." But that's the path I took. And it was a very rigorous and a very important training to me. And I met some lifelong friends in that period of time of 2 years when I was training when I met your father in '77 as a field traveler. But over the course of time, 4 companies: International Harvester to Claas, Claas to Kubota, Kubota to Deutz Alice in Milwaukee. By then, now I'm a 33, 34-year-old. And I went to Milwaukee to be close to our family operations in Iowa, so our grandchildren could be exposed to our grandparents. We thought that was important in a family structure. Lo and behold, I get to Milwaukee, and Bob Ratliff and the new regime at AGCO show up, and they want to move the corporation from Milwaukee to Atlanta. Well, I've got a boy that I'm now high school senior, is doing some athletic things, trying to prepare for his college gig. So rather than immediately move, I work remotely in 1987, and travel from Milwaukee to Atlanta back and forth and work. A good experience, but then CNH comes back and says, "Hey, how would you like to stay in Milwaukee, stay in Wisconsin, and work in a role with our company?" I said, "Well, what would that role be?" And they said, "Well, we need somebody to work the Magnum brand." It was about one year old when I accepted that brand, and I said, "What an opportunity!" So went back to CNH for 15 years, and it really, we did a lot of acquisitions during that time, a lot of fun. And after 15 years, kind of a glass ceiling over me. I think I use this term, Monty: you go where you're invited, and you stay where you're appreciated. And so I've had invitations to go someplace, and then when I feel as if the momentum has stopped or the fun has stopped, the energy has stopped, I get anxious. And Helmut Claas came to me in 2005 and asked if I'd come out as a sales role in Omaha. And by then, our children are grown. They're out of the house. They're making their life decisions. And Kate and I look and say, "Hey, our children aren't going to come back to Wisconsin, so giddy up." So we move in 2005 to be a sales leader at Claas. And I'm reminded it was to be a sales leader, not the corner office. Well, 8 months later, the gentleman who invited me there, another one of my mentors, Theo Freya, is invited back to Germany to be part of the senior leadership board with Claas. So all of a sudden, now I'm in the corner office, and I and a colleague, Maurice Sauls, are making the decisions for Claas at a very pivotal time, because this is at a time when the Caterpillar dealers are saying, "Hey, we now have a challenger brand. We're aligned with AGCO." First of all, I talk about products or dealers. The Claas products are as close to an anvil as you can build. They're absolutely, hands down. You seldom have to apologize to a customer for selling them the Claas piece of equipment. So that was a good 8 years. And then I'm in my mid-60s, deciding what the next chapter of the book's going to be. We want to be close to our children. So now I pivot from Claas in my second dance and come to AGCO, which is now not Deutz Alice, but AGCO, with Bob Ratliff had just left. Martin Rickenhagen's there as the CEO. Really, my mentor there is Bob Crane. I call Bob and I say, "Hey, Bob, I want to get in the ag game again, and I'd like to do something in product development." Bob says, "That's great. We got a lot of things you can do." I said, "But Bob, the caveat here is my dog lives in Kentucky. I'm not going to move my wife to our 15th home, or our sixth would be our 16th home." He said, "Not a problem. This is in 2013. You got a cell phone, computer, I'll know where you're at, and we'll use your talents, and you can come here when you want to come here and be where you want to be when you want to be." And so the last 8 years of my career, 2013 to 2020, COVID year, were probably the most enterprising. I worked a lot on the Fendt brand, bringing the Fendt brand into North America, and excellent staff under me with great customer knowledge, great product knowledge. We weren't restricted. It was pretty good years. 13 to 20 were pretty good agricultural years. And so it was a good run, and I got a chance even then to mentor young. The best thing I can do is speak with young people and try and inform where the rock's going to be on the road. What problem are you going to have, either in your business life or your personal life, and not how you avoid it, but how you manage it when you get there. So that's the story. 4 companies, 3 of them twice. COVID was my last W-2 form year, but I looked at my wife and I don't play golf very well. She won't let me buy a boat. I don't live on a lake. So I said, well, I'm going to keep doing this. So I'm going to spend this off into some other work, and we'll talk about what that work is. But I just want to work with young people and make sure that the next generation of agriculturists like you have the benefit of the mistakes we made and your father and I made during our time. And also, you guys are pretty smart, and you know how to use digital tools. And I didn't get a cell phone until I was 39 years old. This weekend, I watched it at baptism at the Presbyterian Church, and they strapped a cell phone to the baby at baptism. And not only do young people have those computers in their pockets, they know how to use it. So this transition from industrial society to a digital society is exciting to me. And I continue to learn with the colleagues and the clients I have now. So that's the cover story, I guess. And that's 47 years in agriculture in 10 minutes.
That is awesome. I really appreciate you sharing that. And Russ, you're humble beyond belief there. And I want to backfill a little bit for some of our listeners that may not be as iron nerds as what you and I are. But I think one of the things that really stands out is when when you were at Claas and what they went through there with the Challenger line, essentially losing majority of the dealer network and helping them navigate through that. The challenges that CNH went through with the merger of, Case New Holland, the challenges that you navigated and the clarity that you have brought to the AGCO line is amazing because there were so many brands nationwide. And I know you were a part of simplifying that into the Fendt brand and the Massey Ferguson brand and really helping to bring clarity to AGCO. And really, if you look at how AGCO's performed in the last decade, it's impressive what they've done. And I just think
you're
you've been a
complimentary.
part, and you and your teams that you've been with. It's obviously not just you, but it's that teamwork building that you advocate can really come into a company and help it navigate some extraordinarily challenging times and to emerge out of that focused and ready to meet the customer where they are.
Well, think about your name. Think about the botanist name, or maybe AgEmerge or ASN. Your brand is your name, and your brand creates an image, And today's images are not national; they're international. And when Brazil has a problem and catches a cold, everybody sneezes. And that brand, the Claas brand in Europe, is comparable to the Deere brand in North America, the premium brands. And how do you keep that premium while at the same time, Bob Ratliff in 10 years at then AGCO purchased 42 companies. Now think of that culture of merging the DNA from 42 different enterprises. And today, probably 8 of the 42 had enough structure and enough platform and enough wheelbase to continue on. AgChem, the spray company that was purchased, Fendt, the company that was purchased, precision planting. I mean, you can't find a grain or a corn farmer from Denver to Pittsburgh that doesn't know what precision planting is and the innovations that they make. And so how you nurture that merged company, and yes, you're right. I think of when I was at Kubota in 1985, I mean, people couldn't hardly say the name. And every time we got a new dealer, and oftentimes that new dealer was a blue dealer from Ford New Holland, we rang a bell because that was one more step in our progression. And so last week, what's Kubota do? Kubota has become so large and so dominant, and the Kleenex tissue of the compact tractor and small, what I'll call industrial light mechanical excavators and track hose, they've got to restrict their dealers to ownership within a state. So they've become that strong. So I watched this over 47 years, and yeah, during that time frame, you've seen those consolidations and those changes, and multiple colors. Whether C&H with their New Holland brands and their Case brands and their Case construction brands, AGCO with Fendt and Massey, and that's the one thing that Deere has, that they don't lose any sleep over what color their product's going to be or how they're going to market their name. And so it's all about leading up front. And Deere has been very, very deliberate in selecting the right talent to move through their channels. So by the time you get in the boardroom and you've got a board or an executive position, you know on which side of a horse to get on. They're all very, very good ag guys. So that makes them pretty tough and makes them a pretty tough competitor. But everybody wants a tough competitor because it's only going to make you stronger too.
True. So talk to us a little bit about, you've seen how innovation happens within these large corporations, and now there's a lot of focus on acquisition of small startups that maybe have a product or technology that would blend well into the whole suite. And there's several examples out there, but I think the main thing I wanted you to go through is a lot of startup entrepreneurs, they think about the product, right, and the problem they're going to solve, but it's one thing to go from there to creating a company, but let alone creating the sales channel to get that connected to the farmer. Is that, everybody talks about, well, these big companies buy these small companies because it's cheaper for them to innovate. And that's true, but there's another side of the equation too, isn't there, Russ, where they also have the sales channel in place so that the new startup company doesn't have to go through all the pains of creating that sales channel. So there's a de-risking of the technology, but there's also, hey, we have this built-in sales channel that we can push this through. Is that where that synergy comes in?
Money, you're correct. And these companies, the intent is that 1 and 1 would be 3, or 2 and 2 would be 5, or 3 and 3 would be 7. You're better on the backside by collaboration and connectivity and implementation than you were on the front side. The small innovative company has an idea that probably started in a tractor seat or at a farm gate, and it makes sense, and they've moved it through it's like navigating a PT boat versus a freightliner. These OEMs are freightliners. They got a lot of process that they're saddled with, and the smaller company are nimble and agile. They can move, and what they need to do is make a mistake fast. The quicker they make mistakes, they learn from that mistake and they move and they channel forward. That's happening with automation today and autonomous tractors. You look at the ones that, and your autonomy is not coming from Moline and Harsevinkel. It's coming from all small innovators that are they're digitizing this equipment. They're making it such that it can run autonomously. And there's certain 60 and 70-year-olds kind of put their palm up at automation. Not happening. First of all, I need to feel the power of that turbo going through that diesel engine and vibrating my ass, right? I want to feel that power. And you're not taking me out of that tractor. You're not going to take Bob Bottens out of the tractor. He'd rather be in that tractor than on the 9th hole of the local golf course. That's what he wants to do. I get it. But at the same time, I'll ask Bob Bottens, do you have do your windshield wipers come on automatically when your windshield's wet? Yeah, I got that feature in my, that's a pretty nice deal. Yeah, how about keeping you in the lane changing, and so you don't go out in the blind spot, or something is reminding you that there's a car in that blind spot. So we forget about all the things that automation has done to us, whether it's in our computers or phones. We live with it. First thing I do in the morning is I check and see what weather's going to be in my location for the day, because I know how to dress. And we've become used to, I don't like the term artificial intelligence. I'm not keen with that. I think automated intelligence is what it is, because we're automating the things we used to do manually. So it's inevitable. Small firms, more nimble, great thinkers, and move themselves up to a point to where they're going to be a larger OEM says, hey, You've gotten there faster than we could get there through our processes. So we're going to acquire you. We're going to reward you for your entrepreneurial spirit. In some cases, over reward you for your entrepreneurial spirit. We're going to move it in. But then, now, key point, how does the acquiring company not crush the DNA or the culture that exists? And I'll refer to Precision Planting. Great company, moved from Greg Souter to Monsanto. From Monsanto, they wanted to, wasn't their cup of tea. They wanted to move it sideways. There were some restrictions and, public restrictions in the Federal Trade Commission that withheld them moving it where they wanted to go. Hence, the group from AGCO steps in. And I think there's a case of where 1 and 1's equaling 3, maybe even 4, because AGCO got some talent, some technique there. And now, if you watch the new product launches, regardless of what color they are, and maybe I'll speak to the green guys. If you went to Commodity Classic this year, the buzzword is retrofitability. You buy a new sprayer, you don't have to buy sight and see spray characteristic on it today. But 2 years from now, if you want that, you don't have to buy a new sprayer. You can retrofit that characteristic on your existing sprayer. Maybe items which might be options on a combine can be retrofitted to the second, third owner. And by the way, in this business, we got to forget that we're in a B2B business, not in a B2C business. Our buyers are business people like you. You're making economic decisions, ROI decisions. You're not buying this thing because you want to spend $800,000 on a combine. You're buying it because you got a job to do. And by the way, if that $800,000 doesn't return me on an ROI, can't do that. And I think that retrofitability is on everybody's lips today. And in our business, dealers are not selling new. They're buying used. And the dealer that makes a mistake and puts too much money in a used trade is the first dealer, particularly as our interest rates go from 2% to 7, maybe to 9. You've got a $300,000 used combine sitting on your lot at 6% interest. The pucker factor gets real quick. So you got to know how to buy used. You know how to, and don't stay with a mistake very long. If you put too much money in it, it's not moving. The market has changed. The demand cycle has changed, or the demand doesn't equal the supply. Move now. Move quick. Take your scar early rather than 18 months from now still sitting there with a big a lot of coverage there. But start with entrepreneurism, right. And small companies move quick. And there's always going to be a market for. By the way, ag has looked pretty sexy to private equity firms since COVID. When Johnny Housewife showed up at the grocery store and couldn't get the food or the paper products that they wanted, they all of a sudden say, hey, WTF to this? What's wrong with our supply channel? And the fact of the matter is, it's pretty fragile, and we got to recognize that so that we don't put ourselves in a jeopardy.
Yep. Yeah. So I think that's really a great setup for what you're doing now post COVID with McCaben. And talk to us about the genesis of that, how that became, and just this huge need we have for talent in the rural landscape, whether it's at the equipment retailer space or in the fertilizer retailer space or in, agronomics, all of those. There's just a talent vacuum. There's a lot of gray hair happening in our industry. And
I'm going to go to the heart of the matter first.
What's that?
I'm going to go to the heart of the matter. If you millennials don't find a leader for this country so that we don't have to keep recycling these 80-year-olds, we're in trouble. and we need leadership. And the most popular place to look at is in politics today. We need to find someone that's going to. I don't know where we're going to find our John Kennedy or the next leader that can consolidate us. But you're right. All right, McCaben. In 2012, when I slid sideways from Claas, I thought I was going to consult. I'm going to lay down low and do some consulting. And what am I going to call myself? And in 2012, I had 3 grandchildren, one from each of my children. Had a Mac in Kentucky. I had a Ben in Virginia, and I had a Kaylee, who is the product of a Chinese mother and my son. And they were moving from Omaha to Virginia as well. So I said, well, hey, I'll lace those names together, Mac, Kaylee, and Ben, to make McCaben. And then I called it a bluegrass consulting company because I was probably going to move my house or move my household to Kentucky. And so I said, well, this consulting company needed something to structure itself and to show that we know what we're doing. So I said, I'm going to find the 10 most probable next generation agriculturalists. And I'm going to network them together with no monetization. I'll give them a phone call every month and we'll talk about where their headwinds are. I'll do a newsletter each month on things that are happening with this 10. And then we'll have a Zoom call because now, hey, everybody's Zooming. So we'll have a once a month Zoom call. And I hesitate to name names, but I'll talk about, maybe I will name or two. But Sarah Wyant, who does a news service out of Washington, D.C. with AgriPulse, connects us with everything relative to political agriculture. Sarah Wyant's son, Jason Lutz, is the next generation of AgriPulse. So I contacted Sarah and Jason, said, would you like to be part of this network? It's going to be a network of second, third, fourth generational agriculturalists who are going to be the leaders in ag. Well, yeah. What's the cost? I'm not going to cost anything. We're going to solve problems together. Okay, go. You probably heard of the Minnesota millennial farmer, Zach Johnson. Mm-hmm. And when I contacted, one of my coaches said, well, get a hold of Johnson and this would be a good deal for him. I said, hey, he's too shiny. I mean, he doesn't have enough time to brush his teeth, let alone be part of a Zoom call. But through Mitchell Hora, Continuum Ag, friends with Zach, contacted Zach, gave him the story. I can remember where and when I was when Zach Johnson called me back and said, hey, I'd like to be part of your founding group. And in fact, I was about 12 miles up the street here in Williamsburg, Virginia, at Christmas time when Zach called me. So Zach joined the group. Zach, 1 million subscribers to his YouTube. I mean, who does that? I mean, I can't even fathom. And now he's got a long arm taking a video of himself 3 times a week. 24 hours after his video goes up, 300,000 people have watched it. They'd rather watch that than I Love Lucy. They're seeing Zach and his family grow up. So we have a couple of agronomists. Mitchell Hora is one of your friends, Phil Needham. At least Phil's on your radar screen. Great agronomist out of Kentucky. One young man, Adam Henton, who has 5 ag retail farm supply stores in northern Kentucky, who started a welding school. One day on a bar stool, Adam and his buddy are talking about the things that are needed in the industry, and they say, we need welders. Okay, let's start a welding school. So in Flemingsburg, Kentucky, 3,500 people. Adam Henton and his high school friends start a welding school. They have two shifts. That 20 students in the day and 20 more at night. 40 students during a session. I think it's 10 grand a session. You got to go through 2 sessions to get your welding certifications. They now have trained welders from 40 states. In Flemingsburg, the biggest problem in Flemingsburg, where do 40 students from different states come in and live? They don't have housing. So Zach and his wife renovate downtown Flemingsburg with gutting the old buildings and remodeling, refurbishing, create dormitories and kind of a small campus. And these are the young people. Adam Hinton's not 40 years old. He's got a daughter that's probably a 7-year-old. And these are the people that are going to be driving change in our futures. Cattlemen, I have a 10,000 head cattle operation out of the Kenobi family, West Point, Nebraska. Had one Canadian who was in the ag retail business with AGCO. But of the first 10, Monty, 4 years later, 2 of them are still active. The other 8 are alumni. So each year I would add 2, 4, 6. This year I've added 8 new members. So we now have 18 practicing members of McCaben, the next generation of ag leaders. And I've scrapped the phone call once a month. They're too busy. I've scrapped the newsletter once a month because I don't have that much news. But we have the Zoom call. And so once a month, those 18 and 3 coaches are we'll talk about the Farm Bill. We'll talk about innovation. We'll talk about being a parent. We'll talk about industry engagement and involvement. Ag Careers is now involved with our group. The Farm Foundation's involved. AEM is involved, and what it does. To be candid, it keeps me relevant. because these young people bring to the table the kinds of issues and problems that are plaguing the farm gate. And many of them are entrepreneurs, as you know, Mitch, and Mitch is driving his regenerative ag program. Lewis Stearns in Ohio, similar. And I can't help but get excited when I see young people succeed. I've raised my kids. They're all off doing what they want to do. Unfortunately, two of them went to the dark side. They're lawyers. One of them's a judge in Kentucky, and they speak in languages I don't understand and don't want to understand. But these other, young people speak ag, and it's just rewarding.
Yeah. Yeah, that's interesting. But and then through all that, I mean, you've continued to expand leadership and within agriculture and identifying those gaps between, you know, um, leadership level, management level, young careers, everything from during college, through their 30s into their 45 plus, and meeting their needs where they're at within their career, and providing that leadership. So talk to us a little bit about what you're doing there on that whole
Well,
career track,
you're
and
reading
then
the
why?
next
Why is
chapter of
that
the
important to
book.
you?
Yeah, the next chapter of the book. Last year, you start to realize your mortality. I'm not going to be around forever. And so I got some things on my mind, and I got some things in my bookshelf, and I interpreted things that I've seen happen. I said, all right, through uh, through AI and my own intellect and things I've learned through McCabe, I said, let's put together a leadership academy. And what the intent was is I put these modules together, and a module is probably 20, 25 minutes of a voiceover PowerPoint. And it deals with everything from business operations, business strategy, marketing, sales. And rather than to market that under McCabe, who someday will not be here, I said, let's find one of my millennials that has an entrepreneurial spirit. So I had a cup of coffee with Cam Canfield, the Strativation group in Ohio. And Cam was in my second group of the next generation of ag leaders. Great young man. I said, Cam, wouldn't it make sense that in your research marketing firm that you have a leadership component? Because you've got a lot of clients, and these clients have people that are moving, as you said, the younger generation replacing the high temple foreheads. And I said, here's what I've got. I'm putting together this module. And he was intrigued by that. So it's young, it's immature right now, but we do have now a Strativation Leadership Academy, which we could go into a corporation and say, listen, tell us about your high risers. Tell us about your young people that are going, you've already identified their high potential. They're the ones who are going to be your next generation. And what are their voids? Are they missing the soft skills? Are they missing on leadership? Are they missing on the quality of the 5S'ing their organization? I keep books at my desk. The latest one by Lencioni, the six types of working genius. I mean, it's a great practical book that talks about, do you have a structure of organization where people are motivated and happy with the role they play? And so, do we want to incorporate that into your business? So, in a typical sale, Lonnie, a corporation would say, these three topics. So, rather than having just a one and done training program, we start with a virtual call and say, hey, here are the topics that we're going to talk about over a 6-month period. And I'm going to send you these 3 modules. You watch and understand the modules, and 60 days from now, we're going to have a workshop. And let's say a corporation picks 8 of their people. They want them to be collaborative, and they want them to meet each other. They may be from different divisions. So we meet in a workshop for a day and a half, and we dive deeper down into the topic they've already been introduced to by the virtual module. And great discovery during that workshop. But then as they leave 60 days later, we come back to a virtual call. And now, Monty Bottens, you were in the workshop. Yeah, you learned about diplomacy and how to work greater diplomacy through. How's it working? Have you applied in that? Gosh, I went back to my job, and the same problems were there. And we had quarterly budgets to meet. And so the answer is no. No, I haven't had a chance to apply. Well, no, that's right. Your employer invested in you and selected you as an opportunity to come to this Leadership Academy. And we're going to meet in 30 more days, and then you're going to tell me what you've adjusted, how you've adjusted that. And at the end of 6 months, I'll rewrite a report up on all the students back to their, they've invested $1,500 a piece for their managers to be part of this. And I could say, hey, Monty came prepared. He was curious. He engaged in the structure. 60 days later, he's applied these certain principles back to his job, and he's eager to come back for another course. So that's what perfect looks like. We're not perfect yet. So Cam and I struggled through the development of these modules, and then when we were done, I said, Cam, we need to market this. What do you mean? I said, colleges. I said, I'm part of the AFA, the Ag Futures of America. I'm an executive ambassador who was selected a couple of years ago to help them. What the AFA is FFA on steroids. It's a collegiate level of the FFA. So I selected 26 college students that I had met through AFA and 21 universities and put them together in what I called Strativation University. So the academy is called Strativation Leadership Academy. And so once a month, I'm on the phone with 26 college, or maybe not 26, because some of them are drinking beer or running around with their own clubs, but there's probably 18 to 20 students. And I'm doing the same thing with the college students that I'm doing monthly with the next generation of ag leaders. In fact, a lot of the college students are nominated by the next generation of ag leaders. So twice a month, I put together, the topics are usually redundant. In other words, if we're talking about drone technology and how drones are changing the application of herbicides, fertilizers, we'll talk about that in both levels. But these college kids are just fabulous. Agriculture is in good hands. But think of this though, Monty, think of this. Your children are probably in 4-H. 4-H today, 6.5 million young people in a 4-H, 6.5 million. And probably because they have got great community coaches at the local level, start with livestock, start with teamwork, start with whatever. FFA, 6.5 million. FFA, record level. 1 million members of the FFA, 70,000 of them get together every October, November for their convention. But we've already lost 5 out of 6, 6 million to 1 million. 5 out of 6 have disassociated with agriculture academically. AFA at the college level, 8,000. 6 million, 1 million, 8,000. So that means if we're filling 645 food jobs from farm gate to dinner plate every year, that's through attrition of people like me that retire and go buy a boat if their wife let them, or play golf if they can afford the clubs. 645,000 replacement. We got 8,000 college students that are ready. What a hole in the bucket. What a hole in the bucket. So we that are in the ag, if you want to be a lawyer, be an ag lawyer. You want to be an accountant? Be an ag accountant. You want to grow through leadership and manage and supervise. There's plenty of opportunity. Big corporations, Corteva, John Deere, Bayer. Be what you want to be. The smartest thing a young student can do today is not narrow their scope. When I went to college, I wanted to be a teacher and a coach because I saw teachers and coaches. I didn't travel internationally. Today's collegiate students, if you haven't taken an international opportunity by the time you're a junior, you've missed the boat. You really have, because you need to see what the world's like, not what Wapello, Iowa's like, right? So I'm speech making a little bit. So Academy for Leadership, collegiate kids, and these college kids someday are going to be employed by Corteva and John Deere or wherever. And when they get there, they're going to say, I got some really good insights and training at the Strat U. We ought to be hiring the academy to come help us with our next leadership role. So it's a fertilization. I don't know if I'll ever see it play out, but Cam and his team will, and that's the latest gig. But all of this stuff doesn't put bacon in the basement. All this stuff. So what do I do that's monetized? I and a friend I met when I met your father in 1979, George Russell, have a group we call the MAC, Machinery Advisors Consortium, and we go to where the money is. We put peer groups together for dealers. And we've got 56 corporation dealers with over 345 retail locations that hire us to bring them together with their peers to discuss business. And we look at their financial performance, who's in the upper third, middle third, lower third, what's the gap from your performance, how can you close the gap? Great variety with great thinking on, these are the heart of the matter for ag, because again, like I said, it's the profitability from parts and service that make it available for dealers to go through a trough like they'll go through over the next 18 months with weakened, I'm not going to say no, but weakened whole goods sales. And hopefully they've traded for their used in the right, because the used is going to be recalculated as well on values. But those in those groups, we got red, blue, green dealers, we got ag, we got construction. So the dealers pay a premium quarterly to be part of a peer group. And we're building more peer groups as well to be part of the machinery advisors.
Well, in the 90s, I was part of a peer group through NAIDA at the time that sponsored that, and very valuable. I was in all Case IH group. My dad was in a mixed group. But I think whether you're equipment business or a farmer, there's also peer groups available for farmers. That's something to definitely be a part of, if you really want to grow your business to the next level, because you can, innovate and share ideas with each other and learn from each other, especially on the financial side. And
Exactly.
that's very interesting. In fact, Russ, that's actually what took me to California from here. When we sold Empire, I went to run Nylander and Sorensen out in
Oh, really?
Fireball,
Yeah.
California. And I knew Nylander and Sorensen because they were.
When Nylander and Sorensen, were they Claas dealers?
Yes, we were.
So,
Fireball Equipment, I was a Claas chopper dealer, and which was
okay.
one of the four locations. We had Stockton,
You're
Modesto.
exactly you're
Yeah.
exactly right. You learn by listening.
Yeah.
And you can listen with your eyes. When you walk into a dealership, you know how well managed a dealership is. Could be an automotive dealership, could be an agricultural construction dealership. If you look around and you see happy people, you see items in place, you see customers coming in, being served, and going out at a very rapid rate of time. You see less paper and more digital transfer of information at the dealerships.
Mhm.
The latest scheme is having a CRM, a robust customer relationship management tool, so you can track where you are with your customers, know where they are in the sales funnel, know when to call on. And typical case, 7 to 12% numerically of your customers do 80% of your business. So the way you treat those 12% of your customers is key to your sustainability. And I've got sustainability is so overused in a way that I think, what do you mean by sustainable? And I've got three pillars. Sustainability, number one, it's got to be profitable. And that profit doesn't have to be a financial profitability. It could be an emotional profitability. If you are emotionally profited by that activity or that act, it's one of the three pillars. Number two, it's got to be planet neutral. Whatever you take from the planet, you got to get back. And number three, it has to make you happy. And if you're happy, and I've got a short speech about customers, everybody says, well, we need, customer satisfaction. Yeah, a satisfied customer will leave you because somebody else will satisfy them just as well as you do. But if your customer's happy with you, they're going to give you a get out of jail card once or twice. You can make a mistake. Your delivery of the repaired service piece can be a half a day late, and they're going to say, all right, I get it. You had interruptions, your truck was down, or whatever it may be. But so a happy customer is going to come back because you made them happy. You make me happy. And we talk about salesmen that are relationship salesmen. We got hard workers, we got problem solvers, but it's that salesman that said Bob Bottens. When Bob went out to the farm of his clients or customers, he did just show up to give them a hat, jacket, coat, pat them on the back. He went there to challenge what they were thinking about and brought, whether it was a Cyclo air planter, whether it's a Magnum tractor, was a new rotary combine, he was there, and that customer valued that experience that he got from Bob Bottens. And another one of our courses talks about that, moving the needle working with your clients, so you're moving and progressing the sales forward almost in a tenuous manner, and we call it constructive tension. You got to put but if you're just out there and get a check from me because you're going to make me happy, then I never change. I'm not going to make that change from A to B. You got to show me what B looks like, get me there, and I'll remember that. And I'm going to come back and give you the second, because I know you're full of intellect and you're going to give me the value of what you know or what you've seen in multiple places. So you're right. Peer groups help you see that and change, but don't go to a peer group as a spectator. Go there as a student. Go there to see and learn something. When you leave, if you've just been there and come home and say, boy, you really will, you don't understand how good that Sloan dealership is because they don't do that. Well, I don't ever care about Sloan's. What are we going to do here at home? What are we going to change at our place? And let's put some change in place. And don't wait to be perfect, because excellence is still a pretty good pathway to perfection. Just be excellent.
Well, I'll never forget what I've learned about terms from Jim, and I'll never forget what I learned about DuPont modeling from Warren DeBoard. So those things I use all the time.
By the way, do you know Skip Kleinfelder in Illinois?
I wasn't privy to that. So
put Skip Kleinfelder on your radar map.
Okay.
Skip Kleinfelder.
I've heard of him, but I haven't worked with him. So.
He's a great thinker. Skip owns Linkco. It's a company that retrofits trucks with spray equipment. He's also on cutting edge with Trimble and Leaf Tech. He's probably got about 4 or 5 small entrepreneurial businesses that he's repping, and all the way up and down the Mississippi River Valley. Skip and I talk we talk at least 10 times a year, and I was with him in St. Louis 2 weeks ago. And here's a guy that should be clipping coupons, playing golf, or driving a boat, but instead he's advocating for sustainable agriculture.
Talk about that. Regenerative agriculture and its impact on the industry at this time. Still undefined, I understand that, but what do you see happening there in regards to regenerative agriculture and where it's going?
Well, first of all, there's smarter people than me working on it. They're absolutely, it's going to move from, and I think you talked about the 3 stages of adaptation of innovation in one of your podcasts. I think I listened to it. And the truth of the matter is, we can't keep doing, and what we're doing is not sustainable when we're losing the kind of soils that we have, or that through civilization advancements where we're putting highways and parking lots and losing. And when I ask somebody, how much farmland do you think we lose each year because of our rural or our urban expansion? I don't know. They've thousands of acres, hundreds, thousands. 4.3 acres a minute is being lost to agriculture. So that means if we're going to feed more people off less land, less arable land, soil management, water management are going to be essential to us. And what I like about you and your colleagues, or those that are in, I'll call it the fraternity of regenerative ag, the Mitch Horace of the world and such, the Gabe Browns and others that you know better than I do. But you've got a pretty tight story to tell now. You've got about 5 to 6 principles about, and you just mentioned about moving animals back onto your land for one of those 6 pillars, and whether it's the matta material, the armor, and keeping the iron out of the soil, and letting the cover crops bring nutrition, having a root in the soil. Your story is pretty tight. If I'm a school teacher that has, the last tractor I sat on was maybe an 806 pulling a disc harrow. If I can speak to those, and others need to as well. Now, what happens legislatively? I think that's going to be a paramount issue. Are we going to reward those that are regenerative and are holding carbon in the soil financially? And that's got to be the easy button. The things I've seen so far, the bank shots of what you have to do, and then how you have to market your crop, and it baffles me right now. It's not easy. And I think that we've got to find a manner to logistically connect the dots and say, if you're farming in a right manner, you're protecting your soil, that means you're protecting our soil. because it's not going down the Ohio or Mississippi River. The soil becomes more productive. You're farming for, you're not farming for yield, you're farming for profit. So you can be sustainable and you're diversifying yourself. So you've got a diverse portfolio. So I can tell part of the story, but we got to move into academia, into the collegiate, those that are being educated. Granted, a college-educated agricultural student, only 1 out of 3 is going back to the farm gate. The other 2 are going to take those careers at Deere and Corteva and Bayer, et cetera. But they still need to know the story. And we can't just keep jumping for, I get it. I'm pretty neat. You can grow, you can grow 600 bushels of corn on an acre and win a contest, but you're going to do that 10 years from now. And what's that going to look like 10 years from now? So I know enough to be dangerous, Monty, and that's about what I'll stand on it. But I've learned from some of the best. I've listened to people like, I wouldn't say Greg Souders, a regeneral ag guy. He's talking more about trying to maximize your input so it gives a return. And he's more about water now with his 360 rain program. He's talking about getting water on the crop at the right time and the right amount.
Sure. Absolutely. Well, I do have to wrap up this podcast with 2 questions for you.
Go ahead.
These are questions that I remember being asked by you. They're just not fair. So have you answered the question, so what and who cares?
Yeah, it's a Phil Hoig.
Remember this?
Yeah. So what, who cares? Yeah. Bill's a great one. Bill is a Clydesdale. Bill's not gonna. Yeah, he's not gonna baffle you with his footwork.
No.
But he is a steady guy. Steady. So
at the end of the day, with everything that you're currently doing in that, so what and who cares?
Well,
tell us the impact you're going to have.
I want young people that have a chance to expand their lifestyle and career in agriculture to know what the opportunities are, know how good it can be. It's fed my family well. I've dodged a few bullets. To go through this industry and only been fired twice is not. That's pretty good record. I can say I know what it's like. I know what it's like to be dismissed and moved in a different direction. And those are hardship. I think you learn from your adversity. You learn, there's going to be something that disrupts you. There's going to be a tornado hit the Cambridge Botton's farm, and you got to put that thing back together. But the soil's still the soil. More importantly, the family's still the family. I've had children that have been through premature children themselves. They've had babies that were so small, if they were a walleye, you wouldn't keep them. I've had kids that are attacked by a shark, and I've had families that have gone through childhood cancer. But the structure of the family has kept that together. So be prepared for adversity and know that it's going to take a team effort of your family and friends. And I may lose a job, but I never lost a friend. And I think that's probably the most important piece. And I've circled back those same people that I may have lost a job with become clients later on. So don't slam the door when you leave.
That's a great point. Well, I think there's I appreciate all that you're doing to continue to advance leadership and development in agriculture, because hey, we need it. That's just all there is to it. We definitely need that continuation going on. And even though, like you said, regenerative, you're saying enough to be dangerous. Great perspective on that. And I think that definitely that's one of your.
The story's got to be a tight one. Don't lose me in the science. By the way, when I was a young man, I sold night crawlers. And when Mitch Hora takes a scoop of his soil and his regenerative practices out of the ground, it looks like a carton of cottage cheese, and you can count the number of earthworms. But all right, that ruins your deal right there.
Keep it simple. Russ, I tell you what, I thank you so much for joining us here today, and all the best in all the continued ventures you have.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right. Take care, Russ.
Thanks for listening to this conversation today. I hope you'll encourage someone you know to consider using their skills and talents to make a difference in agriculture. Speaking from experience, it's a great field to spend your life pouring into. And as always, if you'd like to learn more about what we're doing to help growers implement soil health practices, check out our website at asn.farm. And there you can click on links to follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn, and YouTube. There's a lot of great things happening and always something to learn. Thanks for listening.